class of 2022, starting with Theo and ending with Avery. Congratulations on a really successful weekend. I enjoyed watching many athletic contests, seeing the strong school spirit, hearing of the vast success of the color run, and even seeing, along with Mrs. Can, many students kayaking yesterday at Sunrise Park on a beautiful Sunday. As we head into the final 3 weeks of the term, let's keep the spirit up, but always be classy and appropriate in encouraging everyone to be successful. We have a big college application deadline a week from today, so I know many of our seniors are working very hard on that. We will have some wet weather during the next few days and lots of athletic contests on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So I encourage you to stay disciplined and make good decisions as we head toward Thanksgiving break. And let me now turn to Theo.
Good afternoon, Suffield Academy. My name is Theo Bass, and I'm a 3-year senior from Long Island, New York. My life for the past 4 years can closely relate to a roller coaster ride that never ends with many ups and downs. My first experience with boarding school was at Eagle Brook School. I arrived halfway through my 8th grade year. I was ready for the challenge of being away from home and ready for new beginnings. Leaving my friends behind was not that hard, although I missed a few of them. When I arrived on campus, I felt I had finally made it, that I had achieved something big. I had made the Thirds hockey team, was beginning to make new friends, dorm life, and experiencing much smaller classes than I was used to. It was great. I loved it. However, 2 weeks into my arrival, I had learned that my father broke his spine, slipping on the ice in our driveway, and the doctors discovered metastasized stage 4 cancer all throughout his spine. At the time, I didn't know what to think of it, as I had received the news via a text from my father that was only supposed to go to my mom, but instead went to the family group chat. I was flustered and shocked, to say the least. The ride of the roller coaster I was mentioning to you earlier continued. Ups, downs, twists, and turns. I rode through it all with my family and friends and therapists. At Eagle Brook School, each senior presents a speech similar to what I am doing today in front of you all. Only my story has changed from them. At my speech at Eagle Brook, I talked about how my father was my hero. I was amazed at the strength he had to pull through a year of a variety of different cancer treatments and continue to build our new home. My mom and my brother Max came to Eagle Brook to see me present my speech. My mom and my brother Max, afterwards, they broke the news to me that my father was in hospice, and they were going to take me to go see him. This was shocking to me, as a quote from my 9th grade speech was, "I cannot believe that my father is still standing and doing his daily activities, just a little less to this day." After undergoing 2 open heart surgeries, 3 heart attacks, 2 tumors in his head, which were both benign, thankfully, he is still around and is a hero in my eyes. When we arrived home, I played the video of my speech to my dad. My father began to cry, and I had never seen him do that before. At the time, I didn't want to see my father in this condition. It was too painful, so I decided to go back up to Eagle Brook. My father was declining, and he said it was okay to go back to school. He totally understood. One day, sitting in my therapist's office at school, it had just hit me. I needed to be with my family during this time of my father's passing. At this point, my father was already in the final stages of life. 6 days of no food, no water. I believe he waited for me to come back to see him one last time. I arrived, I put my hand on his head, and I said, "I love you, and we are all going to be okay." A minute later, he had passed. Some of my father's last words to me were to carry on with life, to not let his death stop me, and to always take him with me. I wear a blue wristband that says "Great Expectations, Joel Bass, 2519. It was from my father's memorial, and that's one way I always have him with me. My father has watched me graduate from Eagle Brook, has seen me make it to Suffield, lose 60 pounds. He watched me succeed academically, achieve personal best in swimming, and do much in water polo. As he asked, I have taken my dad with me every day on all my journeys. Mom, I'm going to quote my 9th grade speech again as it still applies to this day. Thank you for being the pilot in the family and always steering us in the right direction. I love you. Some of the lessons I learned from my father were, be open to the roller coaster life has to offer. Be open to help around you. Be excited to explore what life has to offer. I will leave you with one last quote my dad had sent to his sister, my incredible Aunt Cheryl, 6 months before he had passed. It reads, I want my life force and sense of wonder to take root inside Theo, so he can understand his passions for living. He has a great sense of adventure and has done wonderful things in the ocean, and I would love to see that grow. Dad, I promise to continue my sense of adventure and make a positive impact in the world I'm in. Thank you.
My name is Thomas Bowers. I'm a 3-year senior from Nassau, Bahamas. 2020 was a challenging year for everybody, but it was more difficult for many athletes, including myself. Consistent training is vital to the growth of a swimmer. I was devastated when my junior year was canceled. Still, I pushed on and was able to stay in shape in anticipation for the upcoming swim season. A few months later, I finally started training with my team back home in the Bahamas. Everything was going great, and I was feeling the best I ever had. This was when it all came crashing down. On March 15, 2021, I was skateboarding home and was struck by a drunk driver. At first, the doctors thought it was a simple fix as they believed it was just a broken nose. As soon as the CT scans came back, they knew that the Bahamian facilities were not going to be able to fix it. I had a total of 68 facial fractures, including both eye orbitals. I was airlifted to the United States, where I underwent surgery. Thankfully, the surgery went well, but the road to recovery was only just beginning. I had gone from peak swimming condition to struggling to get out of my bed. I thought life would never be the same, but I thought to myself, if I keep this negative mindset, I will not be able to get back to where I was. This is when it all changed. I started thinking positively and started to recover. After 5 weeks of healing, I was finally able to start slowly getting back in shape. I kept a positive attitude, and then I tried to get back in the pool. It was slow at the start, but I was happy to be back in the water for the first time. Due to bone grafts and plates, I was unable to dive into the pool at first. I had to train my starts much later. I knew that the best way to recover and get back in shape was to have a goal. This goal for me was to swim in the Bahamian Nationals. I had 2 months to get back into peak condition, and I was determined to complete this goal. I trained every day, early mornings before online classes with my swim team, and every afternoon in the gym. After a few weeks, I was finally comfortable with getting back into the pool and diving. Everything started to go my way, and I was feeling stronger and more confident. I finally felt like I was back to the pre-accident condition and was ready to swim in Nationals. That Nationals, I did the best I ever had, including earning a bronze medal in the 15 and over 50 freestyle. If there is anything I took away from this, it is to always keep a positive attitude and to not be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Thank you.
Hello, Suffield. My name is Luke Cannon, and I am from Whitewater Junction, Vermont. I woke up this morning and thought to myself, what should I do my chapel speech on? Most of you probably thought I was going to talk about swimming or lifting weights, but I decided I wanted to speak about something a little more personal. I thought to myself for a little bit, and I decided I wanted to share a story of where I felt a little uncomfortable and had to put myself out there, just like I'm doing right now. I was going into 7th grade at a new school, and I was just starting to make friends. I had joined a rock climbing team, and I was having a great start to the school year. One day, we went out climbing at Rumney Mountain. We were gearing up, and I was getting ready to start belaying my partner. For those of you who don't know, the belayer is the person on the ground, guiding them up the rock and holding a home pool. Though I do not remember a lot from that day, I remember having an uneasy feeling in my stomach, but I shrugged it off and went on with my day. My partner started climbing, and as he went on, the tree from the cliff above fell and hit me in the back of the head. I was out cold and rushed to the hospital. Once I was out of the hospital, it was unclear where things would go from there. I ended up having short-term memory loss for a month and missed school that whole time. Fortunately, my partner turned out to be all right. Eventually, I got back to school, and it was harder than I had expected. Friend groups were already formed and had seemed like they were set in stone. A lot of people forgot who I was, and I went back to being the new kid again. In order to make new friends, I needed to step out of my comfort zone and put in most of the effort myself. I was very uncomfortable, and it was scary at first. Back then, I was more of a quiet kid and did not do much talking. So I needed to learn how to start conversations with people I didn't know very well. I needed to learn how to be a little funny when I was uncomfortable, and I needed to learn how to be a fun person to talk to. I eventually figured it out and made a strong group of friends. As I made my transition to Suffield, I remembered to apply those same skills and made a strong group of friends that I'm thankful for. Now, I'm getting ready to make my transition to college, and I'm a bit nervous for the new adventure. But as I move on from high school, I'm prepared to take those skills I learned moving forward. Before I go, I just want to leave you all with this. The friends you make at Suffield are the friends that are going to stick with you for the rest of your life. Soon, all of us seniors are going to move on, and eventually, everyone here today is going to move on to the next phase of their life. So make sure to cherish your friends while you still get to see them every day. Thank you.
Hey Suffield, my name is Nico Hernandez, Featherston, and I'm a second-year senior here, and I'm from Avon, Connecticut. And when I set out on my personal journey of what I wanted to write my chapel speech about, I was honestly kind of clueless. So, like we do in regular Suffield life, I turned to our amazing and beloved faculty. I decided I'd send out a Microsoft form asking one simple question. What separates a good chapel speech from a great one? And of the 85 members on the teaching faculty list, I received 2 responses. 2 was all I needed though. I learned that a great chapel speech is genuine, unique, and relatable. Still though, this left me with countless ideas flowing through my brain. I could talk about the difficulties of being a new junior at a new school during a pandemic where I didn't know many people, or growing up as a first-generation American and the difficulties presented in that sort of lifestyle. I even thought about this year's water polo team and what those guys in that team has taught me. But without further ado, here's what I came up with. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you have siblings? All right, now keep your hand raised if you're the youngest. Okay, cool. So I'm the same way, and being the youngest of 4 was a blast growing up. There was no shortage of action in the Hernandez household, though being the youngest was a gift and a curse at times. I was sometimes the victim of pranks, and one that comes to mind is when my 3 older siblings rushed into the house after family dinner to hide behind the shower curtain waiting patiently to scare me. This experience ended in tears. Though there are, of course, advantages of being the youngest, like how I acted that I still believed in Santa for maybe 2 extra years, because I thought it would give more presents. And I think this worked, actually. So. I was also able to soak up all of the advice from my older siblings and their experiences. My sisters taught me how to be a gentleman, and my brother taught me a lot of other stuff, which sometimes contradicted what my sisters were trying to teach me. Though, as enjoyable as this was, it was difficult to be anywhere without being their younger sibling. Every place I went, I was Cece or Maggie or Zeke's younger brother, and sometimes I was just the youngest Hernandez, the 4th of 4. At a young age, don't get me wrong, this was pretty cool. My siblings were my best friends and my biggest role models. But after like 13-ish years, it gets kind of old. So after some time, I felt like I kind of needed to break out and do my own thing. And swimming was my first step in this journey. My siblings had all grown up swimming, so I obviously followed in their footsteps. But by the time my career started to take off, they had all sort of left the sport. Though I did make it far enough to where my brother came home upset from swim meet one day that one of my friend's moms had referred to him as Nico's brother. But my journey took a momentous step when I decided to leave Avon Old Farms, which was not only where my brother was attending, but where my mom has worked for the last 27 years. Now, as much advice as my siblings gave me, and how much I learned from their experiences, I did, of course, need experiences of my own. And these sorts of experiences cannot be forced, and they happen on their own, and I just need to adjust to that. This has been no easy task over the last year, considering my brother has moved on to college, and I was the last Hernandez in a once chaotic household. So, I was conflicted, left with two options. Go through the motions, graduate, swim, move on, or I could forge my own path. Though more difficult, the second option has been far more rewarding. I learned to have no regrets, do anything and everything. Forget your shoes, end up barefooted at a school dance. Ask Mr. Van Dam if you can play with his JV soccer squad, and let Matt Louise write essay on your chest in pink paint for a soccer game. Now, even though this process required me to branch off of what my siblings had done, my connection to them has and will continue to be crucial for me. Cece, thank you for being my second mom and making me the godfather of your first child. Maggie, thank you for being annoying when you were in high school, but pretty cool now. And Zeke, thanks for being my best friend and my biggest inspiration. I would not be the person I am today without those three people. And to my parents, of course, gracias por cada oportunidad que me han dado. Aprecio cada cosa que hacen para mí y los quiero más cada día. And as much as I have been told to stray away from cliches in this speech, I encourage every single one of you to find your own way. Don't be copying the fourth of four, but be the one of one. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Suffield. My name is Jack Morse. I'm a PG here from Rye, New Hampshire. Starting in the 3rd grade, I went to the local bar with my grandmother. Now, before you call Child Protective Services, I only had a basket of chicken tenders and a little glass of Coke. I can assure you I was not drinking. But, let's get started on how this happened. So, in the beginning of my English career as a 3rd grader, I was never really good at stuff. So, I'd much rather just go play with my Legos instead of sitting down at the table and studying my vocab words. My mother and I oftentimes had a lot of fights about this. I couldn't comprehend how English was more important than my Lego days. So, my mother recruited my grandmother, who was a former English teacher at the Manchester Public School. So, I started going to her house to go over my vocab. Now, it worked well in the beginning, and then one day, I had it down. It was over. Then, she was really proud of me, so we went to Petey's, this small local bar in Rye, New Hampshire, on Route 1. It was a seafood restaurant. So one snowy night, late November, we went there, and surprisingly, it was packed. There was only 2 seats left at the bar, so we sat down there. My grandmother, despite another couple about my grandmother's age was sitting right at the bar. Next to them sat a middle-aged man behind the bar. I thought it was the bartender, Todd. Todd and I became great friends over the 6 years that I went to Petey's. I didn't know at the time, but there was a start of an incredible 6 years. From that night on, we would study for a bit at home, then go to the bar, Petey's, and finish up. Once done, we moved to the important stuff, like building houses, starting businesses, and my latest Lego projects. After a little more than a month, my English teacher congratulated me on my improved quiz scores, and she asked me what I was doing differently to prepare. I didn't tell her that I was going to the bar as a 3rd grader, because no teacher wants to hear that. Looking back, I realized I learned some of the most valuable lessons of my life sitting at that bar. I learned the importance of community, especially when it comes to education. When I walk in each Thursday, Todd would ask me how I did on last week's test. The older couple would laugh and shout, "Way to go, Jack," because I told them I got 100 on my test. The gentleman on the right would high-five me. I was no longer alone. I wanted to study. I wanted those high fives. I wanted to hear "way to go." The community is what helped push me to better myself in education. Secondly, I learned that education doesn't only take place in the classroom. Education isn't only what's in the curriculum. It's everything we see and hear around us, everything we learn. So it wasn't just my spelling that I was set to learn, it was everything in that bar. All the people I talked to, all the life lessons. Stuff I'll never forget. Most importantly, I learned the importance of nonconformity and forgetting your own path. While sitting at the kitchen table reviewing my flashcards, it may have worked for many, it wasn't working for me. Though I was hesitant at first, my grandmother showed me that each person's path to success looks different. It doesn't matter how everyone else is doing it, she would say it matters what's doing right for you. As it turned out, spending my Thursday nights at the bar with a few locals who talked to me was the perfect fit for me. I'm sure there are many people that would think studying spelling at bars is completely inappropriate and ridiculous, and I'd have to agree, it probably is. To all those people, I would say that sitting at the bar made me the person I am today. It made me a better person. It taught me compassion, communication skills, kindness, and evidenced by this perfectly spelled speech, even a little spelling. Thank you.
Hello, Southfield. My name is Brent Slade, and I'm a 4-year senior from Bermuda. When I thought of what I wanted to talk about for my chapel speech, there's only one thing that came to mind. The one who has impacted my life the most, my dad. My dad, Brent Slade, has defined and shaped me to be the person I am today. I wouldn't be at this school if it weren't for my dad. He's the one that encouraged me to try boarding school. He's the one that encouraged me to go out, try new things, and to make the time I have left here memorable. He was the one that introduced me to fishing, his greatest passion, and eventually became one of my greatest passions. I've never seen a better fisherman than my dad, and I can't even think of another person that comes close. Except for a multi-IGFA record holder named RT. He is the one that gives me education, a roof over my head, food, water, and most importantly, love. When I'm having a bad day, my dad will always do something to make sure I feel better. Of course, he can be strict, and at times kind of scary. His size coupled with his deep booming voice is enough to scare anyone. But that's what dads are for, to keep us in check, and to make sure we are always safe and happy. Whenever I would complain about taking a public ferry to school every day, he would always say, when I was your age, it was a 20-minute walk uphill to school and 20-minute walk uphill back home. Sometimes he would include something like a storm or a blizzard. It's safe to assume he exaggerated a bit. He grew up outside of Vancouver, Canada, in a place called Richmond, and he would tell me stories of how in the winter, he would get into these snowball fights. And one day he threw a snowball and hit the football captain straight in the face. It didn't go well for him after that. A lot of my personality is from my dad, and I don't know if that's positive or negative, but I'm glad he is the person I like the most, because he is the strongest person I know. Thank you so much for putting up with me for 18 years. You're the brightest light in my life, the light that illuminates the darkest of nights. You are my rock to earth. And everyone has their opinion on who they think the best dad is, but I know for a fact that I have the best dad, and he knows it too. Thank you.
Hi, Suffield. My name is Samantha Sullivan, and I'm a 4-year senior from St. Martin. When I first got to Suffield, the culture shock hit me like a bus, and a big one, I might add. There is no way I could have gotten through the last 3.5 years without these people. My dad, my best friend. My dad comes to my games my senior year, and he enjoys flipping me off to tell me that I'm number one, and screaming at the other parents when we're still winning. My mom, she walks the beach every day and collects hearts, or rocks in the shape of a heart. So this year for my birthday, I got a rock. But I know that she's with me. Back to Suffield. Our athletic trainers, Sue and Gina. I don't know how you deal with all of us complaining 24/7. When I started playing volleyball my freshman year, I started crumbling. You've always been there to pick me up, and I'm so thankful for what you've done for me and the rest of our school. Miss DeOleo and Mr. Zorko, my volleyball coaches. I remember a game my sophomore year. Zorko pulled us all aside when the other team called the timeout, and he goes, "You're playing horribly, but at least you're playing together." Would have been a very different conversation if we were losing. However, you have both taught me what it means to be part of a team, something I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Mr. Godin, although you've never taught me or coached me, You always manage to put a smile on my face. You wave to me across campus like we're both the Queen of England. So, Mr. Godin, I will always remember our wave and the meaning behind it. Sue Bunting. I can always count on her big smile and bright red lipstick, or walking into Miss Nye's office and needing a hug because I'm scared of college applications, or planning pedicures for my birthday. Michelle Hunter. She drove me to the emergency room my freshman year. Between the lady screaming behind the curtain and having to wait 2 hours crying in pain, and then having a doctor not know what to do with me. It was bizarre to say the least. However, she was always there for me whenever I'm sick or hurt. Lynette, the person that always made sure that all of us had plenty of food and coffee during COVID. Lynette is usually the first person we see when we wake up in the morning. She's seen us at our worst, I can promise you. However, her hi mommies that she says to all of us make our days better. Jill. For those of you that don't know Jill, she's the one that makes the amazing gluten-free chocolate chip cookies. But her laugh you can hear from the union, and it is beyond contagious. Manny and Sue, the power couple in the kitchen. Manny, on behalf of the school, we love your pizza. Mr. Graham, with the endless amounts of patience when it comes to me and technology, and always having an open door for me to come vent. Miss Salehi, with the world's best chocolate chip cookies I get for my birthday every year. Now, David Winters, Christian Williamson, Tim Thorne, Anthony Saravoni, Carlos Feliciano, Eric Johnson, Patrick Rivers, Jerry Moore, Henry Racinas, Kyle Loveland, and Dave Kazinowski. My apologies for the pronunciation there. Raise your hand if you know who these people are. All right, that's maybe 15, 20 hands. These are the people that keep campus impeccable. These are the people that make our lives easier. They are the ones that are here before we wake up in the morning, mowing lawns, shoveling snow, and doing so much more. I also know that they are some of the most down-to-earth people on this campus. So next time you find yourself complaining about the lawnmower waking you up during your sleep-in, remember that that used to be a work job and they make our lives easier. Mr. Lynch, my advisor, if you ever need someone to be extremely blunt with you, go to Mr. Lynch. I promise he will never beat around the bush. In the last 3 years of my life, you have given me some of the best advice, even when I wasn't your advisor. Thank you for everything. At least I didn't show the school a video of you being scared over and over and over again. And of course, we always save the best for last, Miss Nye. To some of you, she's the scary woman you have to talk to when you need to get something cleared. Or the woman that tells you to change into dress code before speaking to her. But to me, she is the person that has carried me through my years at Suffield. At the end of my freshman year, I wanted to transfer. I felt like I didn't belong at Suffield, like I wasn't appreciated. Miss Nye made me realize that there is a place for everyone at Suffield. Mine just so happens to be the chair in her office next to the printer. She has been there for some of my happiest days and some of my saddest. I truly do not know who or where I would be if it wasn't for you. And for those of you that have not been here very long, when you need to talk to Miss Nye, show up in dress code, be polite, throw in a yes ma'am or no ma'am, and never walk in when she's on the phone. And I promise she will love you like her own. Every single one of these people have managed to put on a smile on my face for the last 3.5 years. So I leave you with this. Make an effort to reach out beyond your teachers, advisors, coaches, and dorm parents. I like to call them the headliners. They aren't the only people that make up Suffield. Thank you.
Hi Suffield. My name is Ava Ravport and I'm a 4-year senior from Simsbury, Connecticut. My first day of freshman year was filled with the question, was 48 Plankton's fault? And honestly, I wasn't quite sure how to answer. That seemed like a lot to explain as a freshman on the first day at a new school for a simple one-word answer. The first 3 years of my Suffield experience consisted of going to classes and then leaving at 4:30 to go to practice. If you were still wondering, I was that one freshman, sophomore, and junior that never stayed for dinner or night activities because I was always busy. It was a never-ending cycle. I wanted to share a letter I wrote to the sport that had and will always have my heart. Dear gymnastics, thank you for everything. And yes, I do really mean that. Although some days I would come home and cry about fear and nerves, I am grateful for every opportunity you have given me. 4-year-old me never felt that strange true love that you gave me. However, I learned quite quickly you were the best thing I've ever done. From a simple handstand on the floor to back handsprings and backflips on the 4-inch beam, I'm fully aware that people looked at me like I'm crazy for putting myself out there and taking on your challenges. If I hadn't been a gymnast, I don't know where I would be today. But I do know I would think everything I've done in the past 15 years was crazy. Thank you for the countless injuries. I can't remember a day in my life where one part of my body didn't hurt, whether it was a simple muscle ache from the previous night's conditioning or an injury from simply walking or overuse. The one time I stepped over the low beam and sprained my ankle, the surgery on my shoulder that happened after too many crashes into the bar. Oh, and I can't forget the concussion from hitting my face into the hard wooden bars in front of judges at me. Vault was always my favorite, along the floor. The powerful gymnast in me could take on your obstacle, a floor and ball, easier than the flowing movement of beam and bars. Whether I was propelling myself over the vault table or running forcefully into my tumbling passes, I always enjoyed going to these events every single day, even though people could argue getting me to dance in my floor routine was like pulling teeth. Beam is what I call a love-hate relationship. Pure hatred towards the days where we'd either have to make 10 beam routines in a row or when skills would end with a nice big bruise in the side of my leg. These falls were always scary and would always be followed by tears. My coach would never let me leave the beam area until I completed at least one more safely. And bars. Bars and I were never on good terms. It was generally just a struggle and not easy to use your full arm strength to propel yourself around the bar. The most tears during practice were shed in the beam or the bar area when I would be frustrated or annoyed that something wasn't going my way. However, I always looked back at my successes from meets or practices to encourage myself. I mean, you are listening to the girl who had to learn almost every single high to low bar release move, and none of them ended up working out. The day when it would take me 5 tries to get a pirouette over the bar were the ones that frustrated me the most. But remembering the tips I had done before would always work. Your challenges and obstacles served as a long, bumpy road, but there was always light at the end. Thank you for giving me the best gymnastics career a little girl could ask for. Maybe it wasn't exactly how I expected my career to start and finish. However, there are so many aspects and lessons I have learned and will take with me for the rest of my life. Thank you for tiring me out when I had too much energy and showing me my body is capable of doing the hardest endurance flow routine known to mankind. I will forever miss the bar squeaks and the days of finding band-aids in the bottom of the filthy pit. The dreams my 4-year-old self had to make the Olympics are unfortunately not a reality. But with the skills I have learned throughout the years, my dream of becoming an NCAA athlete will become a reality. Maybe not in the exact same way as I had imagined, but water's pretty similar to the match, right? I would never be flipping and twisting from 9 feet above the water if it hadn't been for your challenges that were open for me to attempt. I sadly had to hang up my grips, but I still get to enjoy 4 more years of smelling like chlorine. I am forever grateful. Love, your fellow gymnast Avery. Thank you.